You know, I like to think that I have a pretty tough skin, that I have a rep to protect, that I wear leather jackets, and I'm a biker on the weekends, and that I look really cool. I don't know if that comes from just me wanting to be a badass my entire life, or I don't know, the fact that I have to carry around these guns all the time. Alright, they're not that impressive. But still, I don't know. I don't think that I am too much of a weepy... What's something that rhymes with weepy? Wilson. I don't know. A weepy Wilson. But there are moments when that mindset is questioned, my friend, because I have to confess to you, I have been known to start a book and to get to the middle of it and get to the end of it and then find myself sobbing in a pile of blankets and pillows, needing a box of tissues. It's quite possible I need professional help, but hey, maybe I'm just a book lover with too many emotions, and maybe these authors are just too dang good at what they do, and whose fault is that really? Not mine, it's theirs. So I decided to put together a list of a few books that have made me ugly cry over the years. And I'm not talking about the sort of crying that's like, you know, a solitary, beautiful tear in which you still look graceful and beautiful. I'm talking about the kind where you just lose it, man. You just look a mess. There's snot, there's tissues needed. Like, it's a serious issue. Sometimes you just need a good cry, and sometimes, and by sometimes I mean definitely usually, the books that can have that effect on you are truly incredible pieces of fiction or nonfiction or whatever it was that should be remembered and I think shared with fellow book lovers so that I may in turn make you cry in a very ugly, unattractive way. So without further ado, let's get into the video where I share my few books of depressingness. First up is the book that made me cry the most I've ever cried. It was embarrassing, it was disgusting, I needed to be hugged and simultaneously left alone and not talk to anyone for days. That book was Shutter Island. Of course, it is like a psychological thriller. It is like highly fast-paced, it's a mystery, there's a lot of dynamics going on there, but the way it tackles mental illness, and not just for the center of the story, the main character, but for the people around them, just really hit me at one point, and I was seriously reading in bed. I thought I was fine, and then I just read a particular passage, and I don't want to think about it too hard because it might make it happen again, but a particular passage, it just hit me, and I found myself unable to continue reading, and I was a sobbing, horrible mess, and it just never went away from me. I always loved that book from then on. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's glorious, and I know that the movie came out with Leonardo DiCaprio like back in the day, but maybe it's been long enough now that that movie came out that you forgot it, or maybe you never watched it at all, and if that's the case, don't watch it. Read the book first, because they're both really good, obviously, but the book, you know, you're not going to appreciate the plot if you already know the plot from the movie, but the book itself is definitely way better, and I am obsessed with it. Please read it, and please tell me if you cry in a gross way, which requires 2 boxes of tissues and your significant other looking at you like maybe you need some help. Of course, my husband was very nice. He's the best whenever this happens. He just gets me a blanket and tucks me in and gets me a box of tissues and then leaves me be. Book number 2 has a cover that looks oddly like my face did when I left a tear stain on one of its pages. You might have heard about this book because I think it won the Man Booker Prize or some sort of prize, it's important in some way or another, I don't remember, but it won something. It is completely worthy of the attention and the praise that it got, but I'm gonna tell you this, this book is huge. It is a big freaking book, probably one of the longest books I've ever read, and it's a marathon, and it's not easy. And at times you're gonna wonder why you're reading it, and you're gonna wonder, you know, can I do this? Can I finish it? But then you do. You get to the end and it blows your mind. It's incredible, it's perfection. It's a modern classic in my opinion. It will live forever with a bunch of other great books of our time and all the times before our time. It's really about this one particular man and his life journey. He's had a very hard past, he's had a very hard present, he's had a very hard future, and so it's just hard to read. It's just difficult to get through, and you really feel incredibly connected to the characters like they're real people that you could know, and it just hit me right in the feels, punched me right in the heart machine. I was once reading it on the metro when I used to go back and forth in the city, and I was so captivated by it that I completely missed my metro stop and had to spend 45 minutes turning around and coming back the right way. Embarrassing. When I started crying, I remember when it happened, I was laying on the floor of my living room. I like to read on the floor, I'm weird. Anyways, I was sitting there and it just gets to you. All of this has culminated, all these pages put together, and I think there's a legitimate tear stain. I think I got a pin and marked it in my copy of the book where I literally cried into the paper, and it was awful and wonderful at the same time. That's an incredible book, and I hope that you'll get to read it at one point in your life. I just want you to know it's not an easy book to read. It's not an easy book to get through. I think the best way to describe it is like I already have, which is like a marathon. It's not easy, okay? But it's worth it at the end. You feel so good and fulfilled, and it leaves a true imprint on your heart. Next is a book I don't think very many people have heard about or read, but it's truly fantastic, and you can get it anywhere. You can get it at like Barnes and Noble. It's just that I don't see people talking about it really. It's Dear Sugar, Tiny Beautiful Things by Cheryl Strayed. Yes, the author of Wild. Dear Sugar was actually an advice column that Cheryl Strayed would help respond to back in the day in her early writing career. And this book is sort of a compendium of some submissions and responses from Dear Sugar. That's not something that I would, hear that description and go out and buy it, but one of my really good book blogger friends recommended it to me years ago, and I just really trusted their opinion, and I went out and bought it, and it was incredible. You will feel so devastatingly human. You will feel so connected to everyone in that book, and it's just beautiful. It's hard to describe because it covers everything. It covers every topic you could ever go through. It covers life, grief, heartbreak, loss, self-confidence. I mean, just imagine all the stuff that comes into an advice article, all the heavy stuff, maybe stuff that you might not see, maybe stuff that doesn't get published, but just the need for help that people feel at times in their life where they feel that the only thing they can do is reach out to a help article and see what response they get back. Think about what sort of position those people might have been in and what their lives might have been like. It's incredibly moving. The responses are poignant, beautiful, shocking at times, and I want to read it again, but it's just a very heavy book to get through. It's a great book to read if you're ever soul searching, or if you feel like your life needs a little bit of a reset button and you just need to feel like you're not alone and that someone else has had problems before you and they'll have them after you, but that problems are inherently what connect us, as well as all the good things in our life. So it's a really beautiful book, and I remember being so moved by, I think, the first passage in that book that I got home and I wanted to read it to my husband because I thought it was so stunningly gorgeous, and I could not read it aloud without breaking down in tears, which I did, and I could not finish reading it. He had to do it for me. But yes, gorgeous book. Please read it. It's Tiny Beautiful Things. It doesn't matter if you read it right now, but it's just one of those books. Maybe get it, and then when a time comes in your life where you need a book like that, just pick it up and it'll be there waiting for you. Next is one you've definitely heard of. It's Me Before You. Now, all right, this is a book I thought I was gonna be immune to. It's not the book I usually read. It's a little too contemporary. It's a little bit too lifetimey, a little too romancy, stuff that I hesitate to pick up. But when it's done well, it is done well, dang it. And this was one of those books. I really didn't think it was going to get to me, but gosh dang it, by the end, it did. This wasn't the full-on tears that I had with A Little Life or Shutter Island, but it is significant tearing up that I thought should be documented and that I remember now to this day. It was really lovely and really well done and really sad and romantic and cute stuff that I don't want to admit that I like. Next up is The Extraordinary Life of Sam Hell, about a kid with red eyes, and you sort of go through his childhood into his adulthood and how he sort of has to come into his own, find his confidence, and figure out what he's doing with his life. So again, another epic scope work, but it's by Robert Dugoni, who's a thriller author. I know a few of you guys have liked him because I mentioned this book in my best fiction of, I think it was 2018, yeah. And it just really touched me. It wasn't a book that I thought would hit me in that way, but it did. It's just that you feel so connected to the characters by the end of it, and you want their journey to work out so much that when things happen, you just feel like it happened to you. And that's a powerful tool in fiction and not something that everyone could pull off. So yeah, I definitely got a little teared up with this book. My husband read it and he definitely noted how that it was an emotional story, and you're just really rooting for these characters so much that when you're me and you get invested in books like this and the world and everything, I definitely believed all of it, and it definitely got me a little emotional. The last one is a book that you've heard of, everyone knows it. It's Little Women, who I did a author biography video on. Little Women to me is a book that feels like coming home. It's not about adventure. It's not about excitement. It's just about feeling comfortable and calm. It's a book that I've kept on audiobook for years, and when I would get anxious, like on the metro or whatever, which sometimes freaks me out, I would put the audiobook on and it would just make me feel better. It just feels comfortable. Now, as you know, everybody knows it. I don't even think we can count it as a spoiler, but I'm still not going to like say it, but the Beth situation was so profound to me because this is a book I've loved my entire life and a movie that I loved my entire life, that for years you could not say the name Beth without me getting misty-eyed. And I think I've read it and watched it enough times now to have a like hardened shell of my skin, but this book is so beautiful and comfortable and sad and lovely and wonderful and all the things. And when that scene happens, and if you've read it or watched it, you know what I'm talking about. I just love Beth so much, and she is so perfect that it breaks my heart and I can't take it. So yeah, this was never a book that I like flung across the room because I was so sad about it, but it's just tragic, and you know, I don't even want to talk about it. Like, I'm talking about it and I'm starting to feel like I'm gonna cry. So let's move on. So those are the 6 books that made me ugly cry, books that touched me in one way or another, that got me invested in the story, whether it was fiction or nonfiction, enough that I felt connected to it so that I had to express that through snot and tears and a lot of tissues. I hope that if you ever need a good cry, because sometimes you do, you know, that's not weird, it's okay. Whenever you need a book like that, check one of these out. And if you just want a good epic story, definitely check out one of the fiction books I mentioned, because all of them are really fantastic. They have to be in order to have that kind of emotional effect on you. So I hope you'll check one of them out. Happy sad reading ahead for you, I hope. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this short little list, and I would love to hear about a book that made you ugly cry, or even cry a little bit. You know, it's just between you and me. No one needs to know. You can confess to a little tearing up over a fictional character now and again. It's fine. So yeah, let me know what your confession is and let's talk about it. Before you head down to leave me a comment below, do me a quick favor and just hit the thumbs up button. I would so appreciate it. And if you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, then what are you doing? If you like books, book reviews, book hauls, TBRs, all the good bookish stuff, then I am your girl. So go ahead and press that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.